Okay, just imagine this for a second. What if you could create a government minister that was completely, totally incorruptible? Someone who couldn't be bribed, couldn't be swayed, and had absolutely no relatives to give those cozy backdoor contracts to. Well, one country actually tried to do just that. They appointed an AI to their government, all in the name of fighting corruption. So let's dive right into this unbelievable story. And this was its promise. The AI was called Diella, and the whole pitch was just so simple, so powerful. A mind of pure logic, completely immune to all those human flaws, the greed, the emotion that fuel corruption. It was sold as the ultimate high-tech fix for a very, very human problem. But here's the thing, right? That's the real question at the heart of this whole experiment. Because this story, it isn't just about cool new tech. No, it's about power, it's about trust, and it's about that huge gaping canyon between a shiny, futuristic idea and, well, our messy human reality. So to really get why this AI minister even came to be, you have to understand the problem it was supposed to fix. In this particular nation, systemic corruption was a huge roadblock, a major obstacle to progress and its international ambitions. So the government solution was pretty radical. It was part of this big push to look modern, to look tech-savvy. Their big idea? Let's just build a minister that can't be bought. And the speed at which this all happened is just, wow, it's staggering. I mean, think about it. In less than a single year, this thing went from being a simple chatbot on a government website to a full-blown minister of state with a spot in the cabinet, a human-looking face, and a really powerful job to do. And listen, this was not just for show. This wasn't some symbolic title. Diella was handed one of the most sensitive, most corruption-riddled jobs you can imagine, overseeing public procurement. We're talking about the department that handles where billions of dollars in government money actually go. So the whole idea was for this AI to surgically remove any chance for corruption. As you can see here, it was plugged into every single critical step of the process. It wrote the contract rules so they couldn't be tailor-made for a friend's company. It checked who was even allowed to bid. It set price limits to stop crazy overcharging, and it double-checked all the paperwork. The goal was simple: take human hands and human greed completely out of the picture. But of course, it didn't take long for this futuristic, high-tech dream to smash right into some very old-school human problems. Almost right away, the project started taking fire from all sides, politically, ethically, and legally. You have the political opponents calling it nothing more than a propaganda fantasy, just a virtual show. Then you have the experts raising a really good point. What happens if you train an AI on decades of corrupt data? Well, you might just end up teaching it how to be corrupt, only, way more efficiently. And then there was the huge legal question. If an AI commits a crime, who's accountable? Who do you arrest? You can't exactly slap a pair of handcuffs on a server. And this is where it gets really personal. The human face of this AI minister, it belonged to a well-known actress. Now, she'd agreed to let them use her image for a simple, helpful virtual assistant on a citizen portal. But then she was horrified to see her digital twin suddenly acting as a political minister, giving speeches in parliament. It was a role she never, ever agreed to. So what did she do? She sued the government for €1 million. She argued, pretty reasonably, that they'd hijacked her entire identity for a political project she wanted absolutely nothing to do with, violating her rights in the process. But that lawsuit, that was just the tip of the iceberg. While the AI was having its own identity crisis in a courtroom, the very humans who built it were about to get tangled up in a scandal so big it would expose the project's deepest, most stunning hypocrisy. And then it happened. In late 2025, the other shoe didn't just drop, it crashed through the floor. The Special Prosecutor's Office, the one that deals with organized crime, launched a huge investigation. And who was their target? The exact same government agency that created the anti-corruption AI. I mean, just look at these charges. We're talking about rigging public contracts, passive corruption, being part of a structured criminal group, and get this, even kidnapping and intimidating a business rival. The very people who built the incorruptible AI were being accused of the exact same crimes it was designed to stop. The irony, it's just off the charts. And the scale of this was just enormous. Investigators ended up seizing assets worth over €40 million. We're talking luxury properties, yachts, bank accounts, the whole 9 yards. And right at the center of this whole web was the director of the agency herself, the person who was the chief architect of this entire digital strategy. The investigation uncovered and seized multiple properties, a vehicle, and several bank accounts, all tied directly to her. And this is where the story just goes to a whole other level. See, the prime minister had actually gone on record, publicly defending her. He claimed she was just a person of simple means, someone who lived in a rented house and didn't even have a car. It was a really strong defense that was about to completely fall apart.
Because what did the investigators find? A scheme that was anything but high-tech. While the government was out there promoting this futuristic AI watchdog, the alleged corruption was happening in the most classic, old-school way imaginable, bribes being hand-delivered in wine boxes.
So after all that, what's the big lesson here? Well, what started as the world's first experiment with an AI minister pretty quickly became a really serious cautionary tale, a story all about the real-world limits of technology. And you can see the real-world impact right here in the data. The numbers don't lie. In the very year this anti-corruption AI was rolled out, the country's perception of corruption didn't get better. It actually got worse. The nation dropped a staggering 11 places in the global rankings. An 11-place drop. And it didn't stop there. The scandal became ammunition in the world of disinformation. A satirical article came out joking that the AI itself had accepted a bribe in Bitcoin. Well, some state-sponsored media outlets from rival nations picked it up and started reporting it as if it were real news. It's a classic disinformation tactic. You take a piece of fake news and sandwich it between real, verified facts, in this case the actual corruption scandal, to make the whole thing seem believable. So, let's recap the aftermath. First, the human masterminds behind the anti-corruption AI get arrested for, you guessed it, massive corruption. Second, the country's reputation on the world stage takes a nosedive. And the official response to all this? A new plan to move the whole digital contracting system over to a public-private company. Critics immediately pointed out that this would likely mean even less public oversight, not more. When you boil it all down, what's the one big takeaway? It's actually pretty simple, but it's something we absolutely have to remember as we bring more AI into our world. At the end of the day, the AI was only as trustworthy as the human beings who built it, the ones who wrote the code, who fed it the data, and who ultimately held the keys. And that leaves us with a huge question, one that's going to define our future. We can build the most incredible, powerful tools imaginable, but can technology ever really truly solve the problems that are just fundamentally human? Problems like greed, ambition, power, and trust. What do you think?